This comparison is frustrating because it's unbalanced. HTC's new One Max isn't exactly on the same tier as the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. In fact, it would be better suited for a comparison with the downrange Galaxy Mega. But the Mega, at least in the United States, isn't what Samsung is pushing. Instead, it's heavily advertising the Note 3, and the One Max is HTC's only oversized smartphone offering to date, so it's stuck in the role of a de facto competitor. It's significantly trimmer in every dimension, and it's almost 50 grams less massive, making it substantially easier to hold. The Samsung product is also more grippy, at least on our black unit here, thanks to the faux leather trim. Now, whether you prefer this look and feel, with its distinctive retro styling and stitching, or the One Max's smooth aluminum construction, will depend on your own personal taste. The Note 3 still won't be anyone's first choice for one-handed use, but it's markedly better in this department than the One Max, which almost requires a two-handed grip. In exchange for that added bulk, the One Max features a display that's 0.2 inches larger, and it's built on SLCD3 technology versus the Note 3's AMOLED. Whichever display type you prefer, they're both outstanding screens. Of course, the One Max also features HTC's trademark front-firing boom sound speakers, which contribute to its bulk, but also deliver the loudest, clearest sound we've ever heard from a smartphone. The Note 3's bottom-firing speaker is substantially inferior. Both of these devices feature a removable back cover with microSD expansion to augment the onboard storage, but only the Note 3 features a removable battery, though it's slightly smaller than the One Max's embedded unit. Now, further down in the guts is the disparity the spec-obsessed will dwell on. The Note 3's Snapdragon 800 is a more powerful, more buzzworthy processor than the Snapdragon 600 on the One Max, and it's backed up by half again as much RAM on the Samsung product. Other specs are roughly comparable, with a few standouts here and there, but it's pretty clear that one of these manufacturers was going for absolute top-of-the-line in terms of internals, and it wasn't HTC. You wouldn't know it in terms of software performance, though. Both of these phones run Android 4.3, but HTC's new Sense 5.5 interface is definitely more polished than Samsung's TouchWiz UI. That's not to say Samsung's software is bad, necessarily, but Sense is more responsive, and it's less prone to stutter. And we think it looks better, too, with thoughtful touches throughout and a cohesive visual aesthetic, compared to Samsung's haphazard, bloated interface. But what you get in exchange for that bloat is hugely important. And here, the Samsung device shines. The Note 3 makes very intelligent use of its large screen size, with a convenient split-screen multitasking approach that lets you run apps side by side at the same time, along with a less useful, but still occasionally handy, windowed view. Plus, there's the S Pen stylus that gives the Note 3 its name, which allows for lots of added functionality and a comfortable secondary means of using the device two-handed. By contrast, the One Max, despite all its responsiveness and visual appeal, is basically just a supersized smartphone. The multitasking approach is just an inflated view of the standard tiles, and while features like the new BlinkFeed social media browser and the new gallery look and perform wonderfully, much better than Samsung's alternatives, in fact, there's been very little effort made on the Max to intelligently use the added screen real estate. And while HTC will offer a capacitive stylus for the Max separately, without a display digitizer to interact with, it has none of the capabilities of the S Pen, and nowhere to live on the device. HTC says the finger is the best stylus, but it's wrong. Because while HTC's Scribble software is, once again, cleaner and better than Samsung's note-taking offerings, using it with a finger just isn't very enjoyable by comparison. Speaking of fingers, the One Max does feature a slight leg up on the Note 3 thanks to its fingerprint scanner, if you're into that sort of thing. But even if it worked perfectly, it wouldn't be enough to overcome the Note's considerable utility advantage. In all, the One Max's software is, we'll say it one more time, gorgeous. But it feels like a missed opportunity next to the Note. We've tested both phones on AT&T's network in the greater Boston area and found voice quality to be about on par, with callers saying we sounded slightly brighter on the One Max. Boom sound gives the HTC device an edge in terms of speakerphone calls, though, with the Note 3 unable to keep up even with boosted volume settings. It bears repeating, acoustically, the One Max is unmatched. Unfortunately for HTC, the pendulum swings the other way on the camera. Neither of these shooters is optically stabilized, but the resolution on the Note 3 is 13 megapixels, over 3 times that of the One Max. That's more than just fodder for horsepower comparisons, too. Samsung's camera consistently outperforms the One Max's module in normal lighting conditions, rendering results that are sharper and, of course, more zoomable, and without all the wild swings in exposure that HTC cameras have come to be known for. The One Max is superior in one respect, though: low light performance. Even without OIS, the ultra-pixel camera on the Max manages to pull much more light from a scene, even when we turn the lights down to near total darkness. Yes, the shots are noisier, but at least you can see the subject. We also like the Max's wide field of view better than the more confining situation on the Note 3. We also like video output from the Note better. Again, we have the same narrow field of view, yes, but audio performance is far superior, and saturation is higher as well, without the strange warping that comes from the Max's software image stabilization. Of course, you also have the option of shooting 4K video in some versions of the Note, in addition to the 1080p footage you see here.
There is no accessible setting in the video settings for stabilization on the One Max. So I believe that's automatically enabled. Just doing a little walking shot here.
Elsewhere in the performance category, we're pretty much on par in a daily use sense. For those interested in benchmarks, please check out the full review of each device available at pocketnow.com. In general, we could not get these phones to break much of a sweat, even with the most intense games. And with batteries as large as we're seeing here, we're also not too worried about endurance. The Note's removable pack gives it an edge for the most amp-hour abusive of road warriors, but these are both very long-lasting machines. So, in the biggest mismatch of the year, the Note 3 comes out on top in almost every category. What a shocker. Again, HTC wasn't necessarily looking to take on the Note with the Max, but due to the structure and positioning of the different lineups, consumers will make this comparison, so we had to as well. Those seeking a great content consumption experience, or just an oversized smartphone, and who don't mind a huge, heavy device, will probably really like the Max. But those looking for the most capable, all-around phablet should probably choose the Note 3.